Hey guys, welcome to our very special episode of Under the Plum Bob podcast with Team Cowplant. So I'm Vanity.
Hi, it's Marissa.
And our very special fill-in.
Hi everyone, it's Melissa, your friendly neighborhood editor.
Yeah, editor. So when you tell you to cut it out, you can actually do it.
I will.
I'm gonna actually cut it out.
I'm making notes. It's all happening live. You're here for it too, listeners.
That is amazing. All right, guys. So this is it's a little bit of a change in flow. Usually, Team Cowplant is your tangent team, but today is going to be our mental health episode. So we're just going to talk about how you play The Sims, how we play The Sims, and how it helps you cope. But before we get started, we kind of wanted to take a minute and let you know that this episode is going to talk about some different mental health disorders, things of that nature, the things that might be a little triggering for you. So if you need to skip this episode, we are not going to be hurt about it, I promise. But before you go in, if you do want to, just make sure that you know your local areas to get help. There's a National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255. Call it if you need it. They are 24 hours. And they are there to help you and get you in the right direction.
Or even if you know somebody, if you know family, friend, they can help you with getting them to contact the hotline or anything like that as well.
And also, if you are a veteran, I know that the VA is a hot mess 98% of the time, but I promise you, when you do get to talk to somebody, they are really good at what they do. You can always walk into your local VA and say, I am having a crisis or I'm having a mental health moment, and they will get you in like that. So if you want to call the hotline, you can. If you want to call and just make a general appointment and get in, that's usually maybe a little bit faster. You can do that as well. But please, please don't suffer alone. I do greatly, greatly want to express that from personal experience. Do not suffer alone, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then even searching, I literally just searched mental health facilities, and I searched in my city and state. Tons of resources came up. You can walk into a local hospital, say I'm having a mental health crisis. If you're listening to this podcast, you do have the ability, to have the internet. So Googling, researching, finding professionals, professional people who can help you with your, whether it's a crisis or whether it's just general health and wellness, a professional to talk to. Obviously, we're going to be talking about The Sims, but EA did not invent this game for therapy, it is a company, all it wants is your money. We totally understand that. But that's why we want to kind of put this stuff at the top of the episode, because we understand we don't want you guys thinking, oh, I'll just buy The Sims and everything will be great. No, reach out to real mental health experts, reach out to real therapists. And also if you work at a company, I know Melissa knows more about that.
Yeah, there are resources that I know I didn't really know about when I entered the workforce, and even earlier when I was at university. If you are enrolled in a university, if you're fortunate enough to be attending, there are resources typically with colleges that are free. There's a school, a guidance center, a counseling center. I took advantage of that when I was in college.
Same.
And if you,
Same.
And it's sometimes it's students of psychology who are, training to be therapists, but it's still someone to talk to and unload on, which can be helpful. If your company provides it, if you're employed at a company that has this type of insurance program, there's something called EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program. It's not available everywhere, but if you think your company might have it, my company has it. It's a larger corporation, but my boyfriend works for a branch of a retail corporation, and they provide it also. Yeah, just look up Employee Assistance Program. Usually they'll offer you a number of free visits to a local therapist, counselor, mental health professional. And that can be really helpful if if you need it financially, if you don't need it financially. It's just sort of a, hey, here's this resource.
Definitely. Yeah. At most of the places I worked at, even retail places, do offer, whether it be a free hotline for employees, or a certain amount of free visits. There's definitely a lot of free or programs where you do just like small monthly payments to pay for it. In America, obviously, in other countries, it's probably you just walk into any hospital and they take care of you. So it's probably not as much of an issue. But
Yeah, sorry for anyone not anyone in
yeah.
America. This is very helpful. Anyone out of the country, you're like, we're cool. It's
Yeah,
fine.
like,
Right?
We
And other
got
countries
this.
like, what? I just go call my therapist on speed dial. I got the NHS. What you talking about? And we're just like, oh,
I
well,
know we're
here,
like giving people all these resources. It's crazy.
somebody is going through what you're going through, even in a smaller degree. I promise. Okay, so let's get into this. How has The Sims helped you guys deal, in general? Like, how, like, I guess everybody should give a little bit of a backstory to their lives because that kind of would help the process. I guess I'll go first since I'm still talking.
Do it.
Go.
My mouth is moving, so I guess I'll go. So I've been playing The Sims since I was about 14, 13 or 14. I don't remember how I got it. One day it was just there. I don't know if somebody bought it for me. I don't even know how this works because when I was 14, that was many moons ago. Um, but one of the things when I was younger was representation wasn't a big deal. Like, wasn't a big thing. On your TV, when I was a kid, you had like the Cosby Show, which is a very generic black family, which is great. You have a lawyer and a doctor, but it's still a very generic black family. And then you had like the Huxtables and, you know, um, Family Matters, and then you had like Fresh Prince. So you had these really weird, yes, they were black families on TV, but they weren't normal. None of them were normal,
They didn't
you know?
speak to your experiences
Right. None of,
necessarily.
and
Hmm.
they were all like, I mean, I don't know, it was weird to me. And it was great to have them, don't get me wrong, but like I didn't want my life wasn't fully saturated with all the people around who were just black. Like grew up in a military base, so everybody around it was a
Hmm.
whole rainbow of colors. And so, but in mainstream, I mean, you had like I just named 4 shows, and how many shows were on TV in the '90s? Like, come
Yeah, exactly.
on.
Exactly. Four
So,
shows.
I'm watching Full
Hmm.
House, and I'm watching Step by Step, and I'm watching all these other shows. Calling it back, y'all. And I just didn't see myself on there. And if I did, it was like, the only time I will tell you, the minute Boy Meets World brought Angela on, I cried. I cried so hard
She was
because
rad.
she was
Hmm.
amazing. Um, Funny side note, she was actually way older than all of them, but black don't
Mm-hmm.
crack, so no one knew.
Yes. I have no authority in saying that. Yes, but yes. Melissa, cut
But
that.
but it was one of those things that I never got to see myself. So, and then also um, I was like attracted to different ethnicities in my school. And when you saw a black person on TV, you saw them with another black person. So it was even more a diverge for me. And it made me just feel alone. It made me feel very, I don't know, it's kind of like maybe you're weird and all by yourself. And why do you feel this way when everybody else feels this way? And then Angela
Hmm.
came along, and she was, with Sean, who I thought was the cutest guy in Boy Meets World ever. So when
Correct.
Ryder Strong, man, hit me up.
Yes, please.
So,
Still, you've seen him today, right?
yes, ma'am.
I don't know about that facial hair, but I'm here for the rest of it.
Give me that facial hair.
So when I played The Sims, I would make me. I would make me, and I'd make my friends, and I would make, the guy that I liked that didn't maybe like me back. Because when we left the military when I was 12 and moved to Texas, y'all, Texas is the South. Texas is good old boy South, like I don't
Hmm.
care what you guys think about what's the South, what's not the South. It's the South. Come on now. So,
It's the southeast South.
it's the Southiest South ever. There's cows and hats and horses.
There's cows in hats. Sorry.
Wait, cows and hats or cows wearing hats?
Just
Combo bag?
All of it.
you just see cows wandering in the streets in little cowboy hats. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Longhorns and cowboy hats.
Wearing a vest of also their print.
Oh my god.
Yes. Every other Texan listening to this show is like, what the fuck?
Please stop talking about that.
Sorry, y'all. I'm not a true Texan, and this is how you know. I also don't like Dr. Pepper. Sorry. Anyway, so I played The Sims, and I got to play how I wanted the world to be. And it was great. I got to make my girl, and she had all these friends, because I also, moved here, and I made friends, and it was great. And then we moved districts. We moved to more, even south of Texas. We moved to a city that was one of the last desegregated cities in Texas. So
Whoa.
it's like they didn't desegregate until like the 70s, y'all. Like they were holding on to that for a while.
Ew.
And we
Ew.
I mean, we moved here. I experienced my first bout of racism. I experienced, it just, again, it wasn't really the kids per se, but they were very like, we're over here and you're over here. And it wasn't even just like a race thing. It was, they didn't know me. These kids all grew up in this town, and they went to elementary school together. They went to junior high together. Now they're going to high school together. And I didn't go to school with y'all at all. So, I would go home every day and just play The Sims. I'd make friends in The Sims, and I would make a life going on and making this happen. And, it helped me with feeling so isolated. Then when you're a teenager, you hormones and depression and not, other things going on at home or in life, whatever, you just kind of feel that you need to escape. So for me, it was books and The Sims. Those two things helped me survive my teenage years until, I left. So that's
adolescence is the worst.
The worst. Like, if I ever have children, I'm going to give them this game. Like, just here you go, hun.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, and then I stopped playing after I went to college, because college was fun, and college, everything was great. And I was also really busy because college is hard. And then I moved to Maryland when I was 20 because, college is expensive. And I joined the military, and I left everything I knew, and I had to move to Maryland. And that sucked because everybody in my group that came with me was married, so they didn't live on base with me, or they were older, so they didn't live on base with me. So everybody that I worked with, none of them I lived with. So I went back to the dorms. That's what the Air Force calls their barracks, by the way, if you're any other branch. I went back to the dorms, and I would sit in my room and do nothing. I cried a lot. I was very lonely. I would find myself like slipping into some kind of like pseudo depression, where I became like robotic. Like, I would get up, I would go to work, I'd go home, I'd sleep. I'd get up, I'd go to work, I'd go home, and I sleep. And
is that pseudo depression or is that depression?
I don't know, because I always feel like depression is something that, like, when people, I always feel like my feelings aren't as my life. It wasn't like my life was trash or something. You know what I mean? Like, So I feel like, did I deserve to be depressed? I don't know, but I was.
That's still depression. You're still absolutely allowed to have those feelings, no matter your circumstances.
Well, I think you're not clinically depressed, meaning your brain is producing the proper levels of the hormone, like
serotonin.
People with clinical depression, serotonin. Yes,
we are not doctors. That's another disclaimer.
Yeah, we're not doctors. Quote me.
I'm glad that you suck that.
I have to. That's part of it.
So even though you're not like diagnosed with depression, because I know people with depression are very, clear about that. Like, we're diagnosed. It doesn't matter if we're having the best day of our life or the worst day of our life. This is what we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Totally understandable. I do not have depression, so I can't speak from it personally. But I definitely think, as a human, if you are going to work, going home, sleeping, eating, going to work, going home, sleeping, eating, that is not a good environment as a human. You know what I mean? That is not a fulfilling.
You are allowed to
bad
have
feelings.
corresponding feelings for that. Yes.
Yes. Yes. As a human, you were experiencing bad feelings.
Mhm.
Of
Well, as
course
a
you were.
human, I was having an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was very hard. I would call back and, I would call home and I would be like,
Mhm.
"Everything's great. I'm so happy here. Life is so great. I'm just having the best life ever."
Oh.
And then I'll go back to sleep. I mean, my 21st birthday, I didn't do anything. Like, it was just a bad time.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I had to pull together a random friend that I had from, like, that went to tech school with me in in Texas, and she came here and me to Maryland or whatever, and we went to New York, and I barely knew her, but luckily she went with me, and it was great. But it was still like one of those like false things. But anyway, so what I did was play The Sims a lot. It was very much like a role play thing. Like I just was like, okay, you're gonna go do this. And they had the military tract. I made my sim have the military tract, and I made this, and I was like, this is, this is a different life for you. Like you can play this, and it passed my time. It bided my time until I made friends. Now it took me 6 months to do that, but it bided my time until I could pull myself out of it and become the person that I normally was, and leave my dorm room and go find people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like I had to go find humans. It took a power outage, but I had to go find humans.
Oh gosh.
I'm not even kidding. The power went out and everybody came out of the rooms like cockroaches. It was weird.
Ugh.
So
That's funny.
that is my mm, part of my Sims experience. It just really helped me battle a lot of isolation and depression and loneliness, and also anxiety just in general. Like later in my life, that's because I'm not as isolated anymore. I have a roommate, and she's a human. Um,
And your
and
furry roommates too.
I do. They're pretty chill. Um,
Hey.
but I still have really bad anxiety. Um,
Mhm.
it's one of my side effects of my time in military. It exacerbated a lot of random things that I had going on in my brain beforehand. Not just like poked the fire until I couldn't handle it anymore. But it's okay because I go and I zen out like I used to when I was a kid, and I play The Sims, and I make people, and I make their lives, and I make their clothes, and it's just a very like routine thing. Anyway.
Mhm. It's interesting to me that you make yourself, and that's just because, and I'll touch on it when I talk about me, but I haven't made my sim self to play in a long ass time. To me, it feels like such a tall order. It's like I'm already screwing this up in real life. I don't know that I want to like try to make it even worse in the digital world. So it's interesting that
Yeah.
that's your play style. Where for me, that was like, oh god, don't open that box.
It's
Yes.
only my playstyle when I'm having a moment. Like I have my sim self, and she's the best version of me, y'all. She is amazing. Like she
Mm.
is super smart and super talented, and she's got all these like super things going on, and she's great. But I only play her when I need to play her. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yes.
When she's there, she did not die, and she's on her own save, so she's not in anybody else's world. And
Oh,
then
okay.
so so but yeah, I play her when I need to play her, and she's there as my thing. Um,
Your literal me time.
yes,
Yes,
my me time. Thanks.
I like
So
that.
yeah, I highly recommend having your own me time,
There you
and you can
go.
make her live. You live out your deepest, darkest fantasies. You can go be a Black Widow if you want to, or you can be an astronaut. Whatever you want to do with your life.
Stay tuned for our Wicked Whims episode.
Oh God. Oh
I don't
God.
have that. I don't have that installed on my me time.
Neither do I. Nope.
Different kind of me time. Different kind of me time.
Different kind of me time.
Marissa, what about you?
Alrighty. So I've been playing Sims for like my whole life, basically. I was thinking about it the other day, and I've literally been playing my entire life because it's been out for 20 years or 19 years, and I'm 25, so literally my entire life. This is weird to talk about. Okay.
It was very hard for me. I totally get it.
Yeah, this is like kind of weird. And also, I know my family's going to listen to it. I do want to say, first and foremost, I had a very wonderful childhood. My parents are still married, been married for 30 years, more than 30 years. Um, my siblings and I all get along. We all love each other. I never dealt with issues with my family, and I know that's so rare, and that's not everyone's experience at all. I feel like I don't know almost anyone who has a good relationship with their siblings or their parents are still together. It's like that's very unusual.
Hey, pick me. I have that too.
Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, I know some people do, but it's very rare.
Let's just make the disclaimer again that it's okay. You can feel whatever, any feeling you have is valid despite your past experiences. Even if you feel like you've been the luckiest kid in the world, it's still okay to feel depressed, anxious, all of that.
It does not mean anything else. Like, you can have the best childhood and still feel like a steaming pile of poop.
Yeah, and I mean, we did deal with things as a family. I guess what I mean is like we as a family, we had our stuff. My parents fought, my siblings and I fought. It wasn't like we were all just the Brady Bunch or something, um but our issues was like, living in San Diego and affording San Diego and dealing with money issues and dealing with extended family issues like our extended family. And sorry if you're in my extended family and for some reason listening to this because we haven't spoken in like 10 years, we had to deal with things as a family from the outside, in. So when I started playing The Sims, it was kind of like, and then me personally as an individual, not even just my family, but I was bullied when I was younger, but it was definitely not to the extent that people have experienced today. So I almost feel like I wasn't bullied because I was never told to, harm myself. I was never told I didn't deserve to live. I was never told those things.
Bullying today is super vicious. Like, good God, I'm glad I'm not a kid.
Yeah, I can't even. And I always kind of wore that badge like, oh, I was bullied, so I'm stronger. I know how to handle things better. But now, if I had to deal with that stuff when I was younger, I was so sensitive and naive when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
If I had people calling my house every day, you know, emailing me every day, multiple times a day, telling me these horrible things. I can't even imagine what these kids
It's
go
just
through.
awful now.
I just dealt with the three-way call where you think you're talking to one person, they start gossiping about another girl, and then that other girl is on the line.
Yeah, I didn't even have that.
Or like,
I didn't either.
yeah, I had that a ton. I think that's why I hate talking on the phone nowadays, because every time someone called me, it was something like that.
Jesus.
That's some mean girl shit right there.
I was just going to say, I thought that only existed for mean girls.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a real thing that really happens to real people. I dealt with they would forward me the email thread. Oh, look, this girl said you're fat and ugly in the email thread,
WTF, mate. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. I dealt with girls screaming horrible names to me because I went to one of the schools I went to had like classrooms upstairs and downstairs. And so like I'd be walking to the lockers and the girls upstairs would like scream out like horrible things to me.
Jesus.
And I was just like, so that's what I dealt with on a day-to-day basis, and not just at school, but in other areas of my life too. So it wasn't fun.
Girls are the worst. Why are we the worst?
Yeah, it wasn't fun. Yeah, it was just, and it was always girls, of course. But so that's kind of what I dealt with. And the nice thing in The Sims, because I was always so upset and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Because I was so naive. I didn't understand that. I always thought it was something that I was doing. And I'm unintentionally making all these people so mad. Like that's how I took it. I did not understand it as, nope, you are just being bullied because that's just how it is. It's nothing that I'm specifically doing wrong, So I always took it a lot harder than necessary. And I remember my mom always said, you got to be like a duck. And that's my advice. That's what I tell everybody. Whenever they're going through anything, you be like a duck. Ducks have waterproof feathers. So the water, when they come out of the water, the water rolls right off their back and they keep moving. Don't let it get them down. They keep doing the things that they need to do. So I love that. I love that. Just let it roll off your back. Be the bigger person, even if it's a really difficult situation. If you have waterproof feathers, it just rolls off you, you know? So, yeah, my mom told me that.
That is so sweet. I love that. Are you guys Disney fans at all? Disney, Pixar people?
Yeah.
My mom adopted the Just Keep Swimming from Dory. We're both Ellen fans too. So it's like, hey man, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
You just got to keep going.
Yes.
And it's hard sometimes. It's that feeling of like wanting to curl up into a ball. And sometimes that's okay too. But life goes on and just coping and continuing on. That's the goal. That's what you have to do sometimes.
And side note, if you're just keeping swimming and you're tired, you're getting tired and your legs are tired and your arms are tired, like I don't want to swim anymore, reach out for somebody. They can help you swim.
Don't drown.
They can hold you until you're ready to swim on yourself, swim by yourself. So don't swim alone. That's how you end up eaten by sharks.
Fish are friends,
this metaphor,
not food.
This metaphor went in a weird way.
I'm following it. I'm here for it. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's like sometimes you need a life vest. And if a life vest is reaching out to a family member, if a life vest is speaking to a mental health professional, if it's even just getting yourself a glass of wine or a chocolate milkshake and just...
Or both.
Or both. At the same time.
Just mix them together.
At the same time.
Alternate.
Yes. And just sitting down and playing The Sims. I mean, all of that to say, Sims is definitely something, because what I like about it, and this is anything, this is, people do this with art, with writing, whatever it is, but if you're getting a big fight with your significant other, or your boss is being crazy, whatever it is, if you just take an hour, half an hour, and just do something else with your brain, whatever that is. And for me, it was The Sims, literally turning off your real life and just sitting and recreating a neighborhood, or taking like 3 hours to make your sim exactly perfect, like whatever that is to you, because it gives your brain kind of time to process the emotion, process the situation, and see your situation a little bit more clearly versus seeing it through emotion, because you've had time to calm down your emotions. So just kind of sitting, turning everything off about your real life, and literally just thinking, all that exists right now is this little house in The Sims, and I'm going to put all the plants exactly where I want them, blah, blah, blah. And then when you kind of step out of it, you're like, okay, now I understand how I'm feeling, what I'm feeling. I understand the situation a little bit better. Now I can reach out to the friend I'm fighting with, or now I can write down strategies of how to help my career, or whatever it is. It just gives your brain a little bit of a break, so you're not just amplifying it in your head and making it more and more than it needs to be, if it is a very small situation, or if it is actually a very difficult, hard thing. When your brain has had time to process it, it's like, oh no, I really do need to talk to somebody, or I do need to reach out to a therapist, or whatever it is, So that's what I use The Sims for, 100%. Just let me not think about things for a little bit, to give my brain time to kind of process things. And even just creativity, like I'm just a very creative person, I guess. It feels weird calling myself that, because I don't paint or art or write or anything.
Anyone who's seen your screenshots of your builds will say you're a creative person. Marissa's builds, as you have seen on our social media, are ab-fab.
Are amazing.
Oh my God, you're a creative person.
Yeah. See, you're more visual. I'm more of a backstory. All my Sims have epic fucking backstories, because I'm a writer. So they all have like legitimate, like that little bio thing is a freaking novel every time.
How funny. I never do that bio thing.
I do it just in my head.
Yeah, I have ideas for people, but yeah, for my houses, that's how I express my creativity. Because like as an adult, I work a 9-to-5 job. I'm married. We're going to buy a house this year. Like I can't pull out my art easel and start painting. I just, it's just, The Sims is a nice, easy way for me to express my creativity without it being like a very expensive or even time consuming habit. It's just something simple and easy. I throw on my computer, do what I need to do, or even, if I already want to listen to a podcast, I can just throw on The Sims and do what I need to do. Anyway, so yeah, and that's how I've kind of always used The Sims, as more of a creativity thing versus like a storytelling thing. Like I remember before I met my husband, the boyfriend I was seeing beforehand, like a year or two before I met my husband, he, when we broke up, I literally redid all of Oasis Springs. Like it took me, I would say a month or two, because I literally bulldozed every single lot, rebuilt them, decorated them like extravagantly. Like it was the most insane thing. It took me so long. But like just giving myself that kind of project just helped me deal with things, all the drama and the stupid things I deal with breaking up with that guy. It was like, okay, you're being stupid. What's happening in Oasis Springs? What arch am I adding? What paint am I making this house? So that's why I like The Sims. It just kind of helps me process things a little bit better, I guess.
I get it. I mean, y'all know how the beginning of this podcast was me in my life. My personal life was imploding at the very beginning of us doing the inception of this podcast, and forcing me to replay The Sims more for this podcast helped me so much, because I mean, I was crumbling and I was putting on a very happy face for you guys in the messenger and whatever it is, but I was crumbling. I didn't eat for like a week.
Yeah.
It was bad. Yeah, I lost like 10 pounds, which is yay, 10 pounds, but ooh, bad way to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty, and I was trying really hard because I had committed to doing this like, I don't know, like 2 weeks before everything just went to shit, and I had to focus on, in my downtime from making I had to focus on playing this game for episode content and for that, and I totally understand your connection of going through a breakup and then, never mind, I'm gonna play The Sims.
Yeah. You're texting me stupid things. This new girlfriend's texting me stupid things. Guess what?
Bulldoze this house.
Screw you, block. I will redo this house. Yeah, that's my advice on exes. Block, buy, play The Sims.
Excellent advice.
Yeah, totally. So what about you, Melissa, not Marissa? We should put like me in between you guys instead of like Melissa, Vanity, Marissa.
You're in between us for my view.
Do not be offended if we're laughing. It's like kind of weird to talk about this stuff because this is stuff I've never verbalized before to any person. So it's kind of nice just to like say a joke after it.
This is super awkward for us, and I want you guys to please understand that. And so every time I interject some weird spastic joke, it's because I'm feeling real flayed open, if you will. So
yes.
Okay. Anyway.
I don't know. I'm more of a using humor to cope Chandler Bing style individual.
Yes.
So
Chenandler
I think it would
Chenandler Bong.
Chenandler Bong. Yeah. I think it wouldn't be us if we weren't laughing a bit through this. I think that's important. I think we'll talk a little bit about some of the articles we found that, talks about, Sims adds humor as a coping mechanism too. So stay tuned. My whole jam is, I'm going to roll it all the way back here. Body autonomy is so important. Emotional intelligence is really important, and it's not easy for everyone. I have a diagnosis, but I realize that I am privileged to have one because I was able to see a professional, not early in life, late end of my high school career. I think what you guys are talking about, and I'm not a professional, but I've been in this rodeo a while, and I think it's still valid to talk about the feelings that you have, whether they're an official diagnosis or not. You can still call them a depression, anxiety, being nervous, being anxious, being depressed, being sad, being blue. So although I, am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, I know that not everyone has the paperwork to prove it, and I think that shouldn't be seen as that important. But like many others, I have generalized anxiety. I fall into depressions, semi often. I wouldn't call it frequently because I am on medication to manage it. The medication I take for anxiety also helps with depression. I'm kind of self-diagnosed with seasonal affectiveness disorder, which is basically you get real bummed when it's cold out, which, I mean, again, I'm being a little bit light with it, but wintertime really sucks for me sometimes. After Christmas, when everything's joyous and holly jolly and holly and holly jolly and merry.
Duh, holly.
Yeah, it's rough. It's a rough 3 months that's coming in. So what do? I stay inside and I play Sims. I've been playing for a while too. I really started playing with Sims 2. My friends had Sims 1 when we were in elementary school, and I'm pretty sure my mother was not thrilled with me playing it, but yada yada. I use Sims as a coping mechanism because, as you've both touched on, it's kind of this option for self-care, and it's a nice way to escape, go into your own world, literally your own world that you create, that you bulldoze every other lot and build it up to your own liking. And I don't know, has anyone else gotten the achievement of like just getting started? You've played Sims for over 4 hours straight. It's like, thanks for reminding me of that shame.
Like, there's one beyond
10
that.
hours.
Yeah.
15 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think was it Sims 2 or 3 told you to like go outside or something? Like it was like, don't you want to take a break?
Rude. Yeah. So rude. Yeah, but I mean, I'm the style of player where if I got a Sunday where it's snowing as it is today, I'm gonna cozy up. I'm gonna get my maybe a glass of wine. It's a little early for that at this point, but I'm gonna play some Sims. I'm gonna do a nice marathon. I don't really get the chance to on a weekly basis just because I work and I have a longer commute, so I get home and I go to sleep. And sometimes that really gets to me, and other times it's okay. But I think that it's also important to know that you're in this world. It's kind of great because you can control everything and things go your way, and that can be very therapeutic. But it's important to I have to watch myself, because if I have the opportunity and have the time on the weeknights and go, I'm just gonna play Sims for a little while, and then it turns into it's past midnight and I have to work the next day. I think it's a self-care option that can be really helpful, but it can be harmful as well if you do it too much. Everything in moderation. If I took too many, bubble baths with bath bombs, I would turn into a prune, and that wouldn't be caring for myself at all. So I'm also the type of person who has self-care by like letting myself eat that cheeseburger, and like that's the type of non-moderation that I'm talking about.
When it turns into every day, I'll just give myself a cheeseburger to treat myself. I'll just give myself a cheeseburger to treat myself. Yeah,
that is one
there's
of my
self-care. Yeah, well, there's self-care and there's self-indulgence, and I by no means am practicing the perfect balance at all. Trying to work on that, trying to hit the gym in the new year. But I think, I'll provide the dissenting opinion. I mean, we're all well aware that, it should have its limits. But I do enjoy it as a way to sort of just live in a world where things are going my way. And if I, if I'm feeling sad, I can just delete that sad moodlet, and just focus on something else. So in a sort of poetic way, it's nice to just make things go right.
And also, like I said, I sat in my dorm room for 6 months playing The Sims and not leaving my room because I felt I used it as such a coping mechanism that I felt like, well, I don't need anybody. I can come home. I can play The Sims. I can watch TV in the background. I can eat this pizza I just bought, and I'm going about my business. And it became a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could have left long before those 6 months happened. I could have left, but it took the power going out, and I no longer have The Sims because I have no power
Yeah.
for it to push me outside of my room. So it became a crutch that I can see that as well. So open the window, go
Mm-hmm.
outside a little bit,
Yeah.
and then come back in and play The Sims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can say that anything, and
Hmm.
luck. I feel like we're so lucky in a way that it's The Sims and it's not gambling or drinking or
Or
drugs
cocaine.
or cocaine,
Yeah.
because I know,
I could be doing drugs.
yeah, but it's the same thing when you're using something to escape in a harmful way where it's like you're literally not dealing with things. Like you're literally, I could pay that bill, but I'm just going to play The Sims instead. I could like responsibly talk to people. Nope, nope, I'm just going to do this. It's just the same thing of letting it control you versus you controlling it.
Preach. Okay. So we do have, those are our stories, those are our experiences, but not all, but we did ask for other people's experiences too, from our listeners and from our team. So we're going to read these verbatim. We're not going to alter anyone's narrative, but we're also not going to use any last names because sensitivity,
It's none of your business.
right? You don't know my last name. You don't know me. Okay. So I'll do Rachel's. All right.
Go
So
for it.
she said, I'm reaching out due to Facebook posts requesting submissions for discussions on mental health and diversity representation in The Sims. As a sorry, cisgender, white, straight woman, I'm going to really only talk about mental health. I've struggled with anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts throughout my life. Currently, my mental health is the best it's ever been. Yay! I know there have been lots of discussions over mental health issues as traits and new aspects in Creatism, but I don't know how I feel about that. For one, everyone's mental illness is different. How my anxiety expresses itself could be different than Eliza Pancakes. Not trying to diagnose her or anything. That makes it really tricky from a coding perspective. Also, frankly, my personal opinion, I already feel strange about the gloomy trait from someone who has struggled with depression. The way it appears and controls your Sims seems similar in essence to depression. Is it weird that it makes me feel oddly attacked anytime I play with the gloomy Sim? I don't like it. I also don't like that it often appears when a sim has a passive parent. I understand realistically that it's a possibility, but depression doesn't only show up in those situations. And I feel like it more so shows up because it's a negative trait, which frankly makes me feel like crap sometimes playing the game. Despite being gloomy at times throughout my life, my depression has made me a hella strong person, and I've been able to overcome so much shit. The game just can't ever accurately represent that. For me, I'd rather not try to play a sim with a mental illness. It's supposed to be an escape, and I'd rather not be reminded of while I'm playing of some of my own daily struggles. I also feel the same way, Rachel. Just saying.
Hot take. Hot
That's
take.
Mhm.
interesting.
I don't want to play a sim with depression and body issues and
Mm-hmm.
um, stuff like that. I don't because I already have those. I know how that works. I'm my own sim. I don't need to play it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already playing it in real world.
Well, and the other
So I
thing,
feel you.
just to jump on them, I know the Sims creators are definitely very seriously considering adding disabilities in the game. And I do like that idea in the sense of physical disabilities because it is not realistic that everyone can see, hear, and walk. That's not a reality. And I know Sims isn't reality,
Mhm.
but still, I do agree with that. My only concern with adding mental disabilities is the fact that young children are going to be playing it. And I know young children with those mental disabilities is going to be playing it and that they're going to feel represented. But my worry is the kids who don't have the specific mental disabilities and how they're going to perceive people that do. That is my only concern. Are they, but I don't know. It's so in its infancy that we don't really know the effect of it. But that's my only concern is, are they going to take those mental disabilities seriously because it's a game to them? Like, that's where I'm getting at. Are they going to see them as real people, or just, oh, you're like my sim, like you don't really have those issues, or oh, you can just eat a sandwich and you feel better.
Or we can go cry it out in your closet and you feel better.
Yeah, go cry it out on your bed for 5 seconds and then you'll be fine. Like, that's my, like, just my gut reaction to it. I definitely think they should explore it and they should take their time exploring it. I do not think that they should just launch this in the next update. You know what I mean? I think they should talk to a lot of people who suffer various, or not suffer, but experience different disabilities or different mental health experiences, and see, because that's just, when they first started announcing that, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't want my game to be that real. I'm just saying, guys, I'm sorry. I don't want to be that real. I don't need it to be that real.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of, having Sims in wheelchairs, having Sims that are blind, especially now that they have pets. Think of seeing eye dogs or therapy dogs and stuff like that, therapy cats. I love that. I think that's awesome. I think they should probably start with that and take more time on the mental disabilities,
I think that's a good assessment. As far as physical disabilities go, one of our other teams, Team Llama, is going to be covering diversity in another very special episode coming up. So check back for another discussion on disabilities in relation to The Sims. I think the way we have it now, with the base game as it is and the option to add mods, is sort of the ideal for me, because I'm a realistic player. I do a lot of, challenges where you have to make money and, that's kind of copying the grind of the real world, but it's in a much prettier, more colorful world. But I think the option is something a lot of people want, but I think the way they allow it to be implemented into the game is important. I think you should have the option to turn it on and off. I think should be the option for, symptoms to appear or not appear. I think, as you said, Marissa, for the mental side of things, it needs to be very carefully addressed, because it is, a form of disability that is still being figured out by society, and it's not widely known how it's handled. For physical disabilities, though, and again, this might be touched on by our other team, I have a great mod that I will find for pets that allows you to have them be blind in one or both eyes. You can make tripod pets, which I think I don't know how problematic it is to say I think tripod pets are adorable. I think all pets are adorable. Let me just put that blanket statement on there.
Tripod pets are the most adorable things.
Yeah, so I have one, I think it's got like, you can sub out a leg, make it 3-legged, some eye things. I think it has the ear tip for any animal activists out there who know that the snipped edge of an ear in cats anyway means that they are neutered if they were feral. But yeah, I will find that link, because I haven't really used it, because I don't hear my animal activism shining through. I don't make pets all that often. I just adopt them. So maybe I'll adopt one and do some tweaking to do that. But yeah, I think to be able to add on as a modification to the base game. And we've seen that Sims 4 has been so much more open to modifications, to custom content than past iterations of The Sims. Then it could be that, this is sponsored from, like, hey, this is a Maxis sponsored mod. Like, maybe they even help with it. Maybe it's an expansion pack that can or cannot be added or turned off depending on what kind of game you are playing in that given day. I like the idea of having them in there, but I think the option should be I think you should be able to pick and choose like you are with everything else
I
in The
agree.
Sims.
And same, you can see the same with how they opened up the option to make your Sims not conform to the stereotypical genders. You can make them more gender fluid, and it's completely optional. It's just a little click down. You can keep them as a traditional male female and however that whatever that means to you, but you can mix things up a little bit. And I know that Sims got a lot of backlash for that, like from outer media, but in the actual Sims community, it was praised because that is something that a lot of people do in The Sims because they're representing themselves or even they're representing people they know. And so a lot of people don't just conform to whatever stereotype a video game has. So just opening it up and giving it like literal options where it just lists everything and you click the one you want, like that's perfect. And there's no like conflicting anything. You literally just click all the stuff that you want to represent for that sim, which I really like that. And it's totally optional. You can play with that. You cannot play with that. It's not a so I think if they were to do mental disabilities or physical disabilities, it should probably be like that, where it's how the gender is for the game, where it's a little drop down and you just pick. I mean, it's might be triggering that you're just listing a few of them, but something along those lines.
Sure.
I know we did have a couple articles about that people with mental and physical disabilities don't like the idea of it being a trait. The idea that you like to paint
Sure.
has nothing to do with the fact that you can't move your leg, or the idea that it should be a separate thing. So I think that's an option for SIP makers or the EA is to have it listed as part of the actual character, just like their name and their walk style, have it listed on that side.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thought too, because I mean you think about the identifying the gender identification, and again, I don't want to get too into this because Team Llama will be covering visibility in the community, but it has this crossover because you think about as far as play style, there's those toggle options, masculine, feminine traits that for the most part don't affect gameplay. Like you can pick whether they can pee standing up or sitting down.
Also, I like they have ability to get pregnant, get others pregnant, or none.
Yeah.
I do like the option as well. And I have done that when I do storytelling, as I'll have none because that's the story. You know what I mean? So whatever none means to you, whether it be a cis woman that can't get pregnant or a transgender woman that can't get pregnant, whatever that story means to you, that's something that they have. So I like that a lot. And I think it was tastefully done.
Yeah.
I am not a transgender woman I'm not transgender woman, and I don't have those experiences. I am straight, but I do really like that. I like having the option in my game for people I know, or just if I'm playing a certain story because I want to play it that way. I really like that they added that because Sims from day one has been gay marriage or woman and woman being together and men being together. That's never been a non-option in The Sims. So it makes sense that they would be one of the first games to have the no two gender bias in a game where it just has whatever you create. I like that.
They have a history of being progressive in their gaming options. And I think, taking into account mental illness is really just the next step.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're thinking like, there's so much they didn't talk about, it's because we're not supposed to be talking about it. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
We're not supposed to talk about it.
Stay tuned. Next episode. More to come. Marissa, would you like to read the next story?
So this is Jacqueline's story. So same thing. I'm just going to read it outright. I don't want to, not include anything for your story, Jacqueline. Okay. So my brain's a bit of a mess. I have anxiety and ADD with an occasional bout of reoccurring depression popping in and saying hello every once in a while. And to add to the fact that I'm also currently working on dual honors degrees, and it's probably,
Girl.
oh gosh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Mm.
I could barely get my associates. That's amazing. Okay. So and it's probably not hard to imagine that sometimes I feel a little bit out of control when it comes to my actual life. Meditating is something that a lot of people suggest as a way of helping to deal with mental illness. And while I totally agree it can be super, super helpful, and I do try to meditate as close to daily as possible, I realize that traditional sit on a cushion, close your eyes and breathe meditation isn't the only way, or even the most effective way, depending on the day, to get my brain to shut off.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Over time, I've come to learn. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I'm agreeing with
I'm
you,
bad at
Jacqueline.
meditating too.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree with you,
My brain,
Jacqueline.
my
So
brain
right.
just wanders.
It does not turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with what she's
Mm-mm.
experiencing, this makes sense, what she's saying.
Yeah.
So over time, I've come to learn that playing The Sims actually has a really similar effect on my brain to meditation. When I'm simming, I'm not thinking about school or whether or not my friends are all hanging out without me or how much reading I need to get done before the following day in order not to fail the semester. All I'm thinking
Been
about,
there.
yes, right? All I'm thinking about is what's going on my screen. To me, that's meditation, and it's ridiculously therapeutic. There is a seriously small number of activities that I found that really allow me to shut off and dive all into what I'm doing. And The Sims is honestly one of the most effective ways I've found for that purpose. I really can control the reality of my day-to-day life, but I most definitely can control that for my Sims. And that small fact in and of itself can be extremely comforting. The world around me is going to be chaotic whether I like it or not. So whether I choose to build a world that's as serene and calm as a summer's day, or a clusterfuck of chaos that I've designed myself, the power to choose is as good as a balm to any of the woes in reality, in my humble opinion. And
Girl, preach.
I
Yeah.
agree 100%. It is a way to turn off your brain. Like yesterday, I'm doing the Not So Berry challenge. I played for 8 hours straight and I didn't even blink. Like I didn't even realize I was doing it because I was so involved. And finally, my husband was like, because of course my husband was playing video games too, and he looks at me and is like, Marissa, like, we've been playing video games for 8 hours, but we've had a really stressful month. We've had tons of things. We've both been sick. We had a lot of stress this month. So, or last month in December. So we needed like a day to literally just play video games for 8 hours to just turn off our brains and not think about the stress.
Did you eat?
No, it wasn't until Dylan turned to me and was literally like, Marissa, we've been playing video games for 8 hours. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, oh, my eyes hurt. Like I need to not look at a screen for an hour. But
That's funny. Steve, my boyfriend and I, he plays video games too, so we kind of fall into that. Like, we just need a large chunk of time to not be in our real lives. And I mean, it's so cool that she likened it to meditation. I have always been self-proclaimed real bad at meditation. That's not really from a psychological standpoint, it's not a helpful thing to say, but I'm bad at it. Like, I always say that I'm bad at practicing mindfulness is hard. Living in the present is hard. And not that I don't know that those are the same things as meditation, but just the ability to shut your brain off from normal life and do something else. And I have a very active brain, so I will loop into these anxious, spiraling, looping thoughts, and it's a real pain in the neck. But if I can take my brain off of that circular track and put it on the track of, well, I need this woman to get pregnant 100 times and have 100 babies. Like that's the problem that I focus on. That's the problem solving that I can just switch to. And it's nice. It's a nice, kind of removal of the self. But I never thought of it as meditation, and now I will.
I never thought about it either. It's so good. And also the control. Because I've definitely done that before where I make speaking back to my Oasis Springs, I made everything perfect. Everyone in the town was perfect. They were all friends. They had these beautiful, amazing houses. They all were millionaires. I did that. But I've also played where everything was horrible. There was a guy getting everyone pregnant and everyone was fighting in the streets and there was 10 different
Damn
baby
it, Dom
mamas.
Lothario.
It was Dom Lothario. Yep. Dom Lothario.
How did I know? How did I know?
Pregnant.
Dom the dog.
Because
like,
he's an
come on.
asshole.
Well,
And literally Fit Sims were fighting in the streets because it was all like the husbands of the wives or the boyfriends or just the women fighting each other. I mean, it was literally chaos and nonsense. And I didn't stay in that.
happy neighborhood brawl day.
Yeah, I didn't like stay in that for a long time because it was kind of like nonsense. But it was just like,
Yeah.
what did I do?
Same girl.
Shall I read the next
Yes.
testimonial? This next story comes from Allie. She says, I live with anxiety and high-functioning depression. I have always loved playing Sims regardless, but especially lately with factors of my life. Lately, it has been more frequent. I'm going back to school, work a full-time job, and just the craziness of life with my depression. So on my days where I come home after putting on my face to the world, like I am not going crazy on the inside, I play Sims. I am able to shut off my brain and escape from my own thoughts and feelings and channel them into this world that I created, that I have control of. When I feel like I am failing in life, I am able to control a Sim to achieve their aspirations as I figure out how to achieve mine in real life. When I am having days where all I want to do is hide in my room and not get out of bed, I will pull out my laptop and play Sims, create a world where I can be whoever I want to be. An actress, a scientist, a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids running around, anything. The Sims is a world of possibilities that allow me to get out of the worrisome thoughts and relax for a while in this crazy world. Preach again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of times that we've said, shut off my brain is that's exactly how I feel. It's because I have a brain that takes a lot to shut it off. I'm a really bad sleeper.
Oh my gosh, same.
Yeah. It takes me forever to fall asleep at night. It just goes. It's like a motor that cannot be shut off. I get songs stuck in my head really easily. I feel like that's
my gosh,
kind of a weird
I always
trait.
have a song in my head. Always. I will wake up with a song in my head. Like that's what wakes me up sometimes is like a song just starts blaring in my head. That's
I wake up to a radio in my head.
Yeah.
I'll have 2 sometimes. That's really annoying. I'll have like one where I try to just switch it to a different song and then they're both and it's not a good mashup anyway. Sometimes for folks like us, it's nice to just shut it down.
Yeah.
Just shut it down and focus on something else.
Preach.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Becky. She says, I have anxiety and depression, which I've struggled with since my early teens, and my paranoia will spark up if I'm going through a really bad patch. I've been playing The Sims from the start, but since my mom was diagnosed with cancer, it became an extra level of comfort. For those 7 years, I felt like I had zero control over if this round of chemo would give my mom more time or not. I had control with my Sims. I could look after every aspect of their life as 3 and then 4 came out, and I got more and more control, which I didn't have in my life. When my mom did pass away after a long battle, I quit a job that I hated and didn't have a job for 10 years. Jesus. This podcast and the Sims game helped me. I didn't have to think about shit or how I was planning a wedding that my mom wasn't going to be there for. Oh, honey. I understand why people want their mental illness and their disabilities in the game. I have PCOS, but for me, I wouldn't want that in my gameplay. It's my escape from my troubles, but also my depression. I don't need to think about looking after my Sims' physical and mental health as well as my own. It's been a battle that I was diagnosed with at 12, and that this game was my escape. I don't want it destroyed. I don't mind if it's put in the game, as I know it's what people want, but I want a choice to opt out of it. I don't want to deal with my mental issues, passing out on a monthly basis, or ending up in the hospital because an ovarian cyst has burst in my game as well. Holy crap. Preach so hard. It's oof. Like I completely understand. Like my dad is battling cancer for the second time. Well, yeah, as well. Right now, he just started his chemo and radiation yesterday, Monday, for the second time, and I'm just not thinking about it. We're not talking about it. We're not thinking about it. We're just like, it's another day. You're just going to the doctor. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to think about it anymore. So I don't want cancer in my game. I don't want mental problems in my game. I don't want that. And so I completely agree with Becky. Like, there's enough shitstorms in my life that I don't want to have to deal with it in my game. But if that's how people deal, like if they
Mm-hmm.
want that in their game, I do want the option to opt out. I do want the option to turn it off. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's only fair. I
Yeah.
think it's great that she's talking about like the community does want it, and for someone who wants a more realistic game, I think it would enrich my game, but I understand that it would be painful for others. So I think the happy medium there is to be able to opt out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's how some people might be able to deal with it. If
Right.
they have maybe a friend who has a certain physical or mental disability and they personally are having a hard time understanding it and accepting it in whatever way it is, being able to put it in The Sims and just kind of see a very dumbed down version of that and a very filtered version, not a real experience, obviously, but a game experience. Um, it might be nice for people to kind of deal with things, or if someone very recently was diagnosed and they feel so overwhelmed to be able to make a sim with a certain diagnosis, but I do definitely see Becky's point of view. She's like, I do not want to deal with it. I want to make a sim running around doing whatever I want them to do. Yeah, I definitely see it. This is Melly's story. Melly says, growing up, I was always the odd one out. I always felt like I wasn't like my siblings. I turned to The Sims to escape that empty feeling. At the age of 14, I found out that the man that raised me wasn't my real father. That didn't affect our relationship until my biological father decided to jump into the picture. My mom divorced my dad and used me to get back with my biological dad. He had his own kids.
Oh, God.
They meshed as a family perfectly, and again, I was the odd one out. The older I got, the more I felt like I didn't belong on this planet. I tried killing myself multiple times, and each time something stopped me. Again, I turned to The Sims. I created a world I controlled. I may not be happy, but in my game, I was. I was for once in control of my fake life. Senior year of high school, I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and that was my breaking point. I thought that was it. I knew if I didn't change something, I would be dead at the end of the year. I started coding and playing more games, and The Sims became a staple to me. It's always been there for me and has never let me down. Now, as an adult, whenever I struggle, I know I have saves to get me through the day. I know for a few years I can't have kids, and as crippling as it is, I do not let it bring me down. As long as I have The Sims and the community and my doggies, I know I can conquer it all. Oh,
Jesus.
First of all,
Mary and Joseph.
thank you, Melly, for being so honest and sincere. And the fact that we have people that are comfortable, sharing their stories, I think is so important in this podcast. And it's one of the reasons.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who wanted to share their stories here. And thank you to everyone who did not feel comfortable, but still wants to listen and support. I mean, because this is, we all got serious, and just thank you. Thank you for trusting us with this, because this is
that was
life.
That was my biggest fear with this game. Like with this episode, I was like, people are trusting us with their words, with their struggles, with their ness. I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to mess this up. And yes, we had some jokey moments or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, we know this is serious, and all of us have had this affect us in some way. And I really hope that this episode can help other people as well, that you guys know you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Know that we are all experiencing the bullshittery of having a human brain. To be the most mentally developed creature on this planet, it has its drawbacks,
Mm-hmm.
it has its quirks, and it has its problems. And I don't care what many people are saying, it's technology today. No, honey, we've had any problems since the beginning of time.
Yes.
Our brains just sometimes short circuit, and
brains are the worst.
Well,
they are the
it's a monkey brain trying to figure out a computer. Like, let's just call it as it is. It's a brain.
Okay.
It's a brain that is used to, spearing fish and finding shelter and making fires. And now it
And
is
making babies.
and making babies, and now it is dealing with political scandals and people dying everywhere. And it's like, what? Like, I can't handle this.
Global
Global
warming.
warming.
I mean, even on the smallest scale, it's dealing with social issues, like just
Mm.
dealing with people not liking you for no reason, or people, like in my case, not liking you for the way that you speak because you don't sound black enough. But are you trying to be white? I'm like, no, it's
Oh
just
Oh
God,
my
yeah,
god.
it's oh good. I can
that's
go into a
awful.
spiel about that. Made me really have a really horrible identity crisis. It's like, am I black? I'm black, but black people don't say I'm black. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
am I not enough for you just because I don't sound like you? I'm sorry, but I wasn't. It's how I speak. It's the people that I was around growing up.
Well,
I
especially
mean, hell,
having military
I
base.
had a yeah, I had a British accent until I was like 6. It was
Oh, BB.
ridiculous. Yeah, because I grew up with British kids, and when you're a kid with other kids who sound like that, you sound like them.
Exactly.
And so it's one of those things where I never felt comfortable in my own skin until well into my late 20s and 30s. Like I started to feel comfortable being who I am. And I credit that with The Sims. Granted, they don't have a lot of their ability to put a black people's hair on something is really annoying, but
Ugh.
um, girl,
That's another episode.
but right.
I
Um,
think something that Melly touches on towards the end, despite going through all that she's gone through, as she talks about in her story, um, the community is something that, we haven't really talked about. The game itself can be therapeutic, but the Sims community is also kind of a rad place full of open-minded people for the most part. People who, try to mod the game to include everybody's experiences. People who, try to create custom content that includes all races of people, including
mhm.
better hair for
And better skin.
Sims of color,
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
skin and hair for diverse Sims. And I don't know, I'm not as involved in the community side of things. Like, I'm really bad at Twitter and Tumblr, but I love that it has the ability to be, a community, a true community, a place where people can go and talk about the game and talk about the societal implications of the game and where the crossovers are into real life, and for the most part save a couple of celebrity related controversies. We're all fairly, giving and understanding, and I don't know, it's that's another kind of aspect that I hadn't
I
considered.
Yeah.
I think that's why I don't want to. Part of me doesn't want the community tainted with the politics of mental health issues and the politics of, well, that's a triggering, and that's what is it, that's ableist, or that's this or that's that, or that. I don't want this
Right.
community tainted with that. It's already everywhere. You have to watch what you say and watch what you do at any point in time on any kind of social forum, because you might offend somebody, and I don't want this community to be tainted with that.
Because we are so open already and
Mhm.
talking
I
about
Mm-hmm.
these topics, and typically it is, I don't know, I'm a big fan of assume goodwill and
Yes.
consider intent.
Yes.
And I would say generally for the Sims community, we're all just kind of here talking about life and our simulation of life. As Grimm so wisely says, this is a life simulator.
Mm.
And it's, we're all just trying to grow and learn together. So that is something that could potentially come out of adding these into the game as a non-toggleable option.
Yeah. Also, just a little caveat for this episode as well. Please assume positive intent for whatever we are saying. We are not trying to step on toes. We're not trying to use the wrong language or something that offends you or something like that. So understand that none of this is coming from a place of maliciousness. None of this is coming from a place of, hate or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. We're not trying to do any of that. So if you feel like, well, what she said was harmful to this community or that community or something like that, not what we're trying to do. So if you do take offense to something that we may have said, understand that we are humans, we are people, and we're talking about our own experiences and how it affects us. But you are still more than welcome to email us nicely and tell us how it may or may not have, how what we said could have been something that we change. But do not jump on us like we're trying to, like, and I know, ignorance is, you can Google it, but look.
But no, but definitely,
Yeah.
if you're part of a community, and especially, I feel like I probably said a lot of problematic things, and just because I have trouble like expressing my thoughts into words a lot of time, and it takes me like 3 sentences to make a cohesive sentence. So definitely, if I said something personally, or any of us said something, and you're like, no, actually that's wrong because of this, just email us. We're happy to read it and understand it, and learn from it for sure, and make the podcast better, and use the proper language, and grow from the experience. And we're not going to dig our heels in and say, nope, this is what we think and this is it. We're
Correct.
definitely a very growing and changing podcast. We want to be better for ourselves, for the podcast community, and for you guys.
Yeah. Speaking of the community.
Yeah.
I think we've packed on the heavy enough for you today. So
Yeah. You can find us pretty much everywhere on the internet. On Instagram and Twitter, we are PlumBobCast. On Reddit, we are PlumBob Podcast, and we have our own subreddit now, so check that out. Under the PlumBob Podcast on Facebook and Tumblr. And you can find us and email us through the website contact form at undertheplumbob.com. We're also on Twitch and YouTube. We're slowly starting to provide some video content. Recently, Marissa herself was on doing a nice custom content tutorial, how to get it, how to not blow up your computer when you try to get it, which was very helpful to me, let me say. And you can find that content at twitch.tv/undertheplumbobpodcast. Podcast. And we're on YouTube as Plumbob Podcast. You're listening right now, obviously, so you haven't had any trouble finding us. If you want to let others know about us, let them know that they can subscribe and rate and review on all kinds of podcast platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play. And if there's one that you use that you haven't heard yet, let us know. Email us undertheplumbobpodcast.com, and we will accommodate that the best we can.
Please do rate and review, though. I think iTunes is the one that's important or something. I don't know. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know how this works, but do it anyway.
Big shout out to our whole team. This episode really was a It Takes a Village effort. Some of the story submissions came from members of our team. Everyone sort of weighed in on these topics because, they are very special episodes. They are very important. So thank you.
Also, thank you to the fans or the listeners. We do appreciate you guys actually writing in. It was a whole shock to me that we actually got some people to actually, send us an email about it, because we are a fledgling podcast.
You like us. You really, really like us.
So, but thank you for that. Seriously, it brought some outside perspective because we are in our little podcast bubble, and it brought us some outside perspective. So we thank you so much for that. This has been a very heavy episode that we tried to pepper with some little bit of humor just to take the edge off, like a shot of scotch. Just take the edge off. Do you shoot scotch?
Shoot?
Like a shot?
No.
Like a shot of scotch?
Do you down scotch?
No.
Do you down a scotch?
Swirl it around in a too tiny cup, and if you have ice in it, sometimes I don't know.
Okay, like a shot of like a shot of vodka, because I know you shoot that. But anyway, this has been hard and easy all at the same time, which is really weird for me. I think it's because I'm very comfortable with my peeps that I'm talking to here, and it's like I'm only talking to you because no one's listening, right? That's how this works.
Yes, they are. They're writing in.
They're writing in actively.
And before we go, one final reminder that next week there will be another very special episode from Team Llama. They're going to talk about diversity and representation in The Sims, what EA is doing, what EA can do to improve, and things like that.
Which I love.
Yeah.
I love that. Super cool.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, thank you for allowing us to be vulnerable. And definitely know after the next episode, it'll be back to just talking about the game and talking about a little bit more lighter topics.
Jokes on jokes on jokes.
Jokes on jokes.
I think we're doing cats and dogs, and I am so excited, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Pets. So it's going to be back to lighthearted fun, but we wanted to take a minute just to make sure that you guys know how to deal, how do you deal, and know that we want you here, not just to listen, but to exist on this big floating circle that we're on, this sphere floating through space. We want you on it.
That's right. All right, everybody. I think it's time we head back to the real world. Thanks again for listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We are not doctors. That's another disclaimer.
And we have a special fill-in for this episode. So I'm Vanity, and you guys want to say your names or nah? Oh, you're going to be very special in a very special episode. I'm doing it.
I've been told I'm very special, so.
So cut out that whole minute. All right.
Done.